Hey, Superfly. So if I do decide to take the class next semester, I will be fiddling around with nitrogen lasers and engineering them. Our goal for the semester would be to compare the construction of two differently constructed nitrogen lasers and their data um, in hopes to engineer our own nitrogen laser, with the goal being to create the greatest possible peak power through extensive trial and error, which we will adjust, throughout the semester. So our basic layout of the semester, day 1 and 2 will be for the construction and the testing of the nitrogen laser with testing specific data that I will touch on later. And as well, day 3 and 4 will be for the construction and testing of the second nitrogen laser with that same data. And then I'll have the whole rest of the semester to construct my newly engineered nitrogen laser through trial and error, getting to fiddle around with it as much as I can in hopes of achieving that greatest peak power. And on the last day, it'll be the final testing and comparison to the first two lasers, so I can really see how far I've come. So first, nitrogen laser materials. Basically everything you have, with the exception of maybe kitchen foil, mirror, cling film, color television, and double-sided sticky tape. Like everything else are items you either have or household items, which are very easily obtainable. So, for example, I gave out the prices of each of the things that you may not have or I don't have. Mirror and a basic color box television I will have at home, and then everything else has a price and where I'm buying it from. Zorro Tools and Shoplit and Yulin, for example, those are all online places. So for the second nitrogen laser, something hard for the base, that's easily findable. Dielectric foil, though, angle stock, kitchen aluminum foil, aluminum duct tape, power supply. These are all things that, two resistors, these are all things that I'm going to need to find, as well as a 30 by 30 by 30 angle. So I listed all the places where I'm getting these things from and their prices. Yulin, Zorro Tools, Soap.com, these are the places I'm buying them from online. And you were worried about the power supply, but that is in fact only $5.95, and it will range just enough power for me since I only need 6 kilovolts. And the final two products, which are a little more expensive, but they are manageable. I'm buying them both off of eBay. I found specific people that I can buy them from if I were to do this project. The silicon photodetector, which is going to be receiving the lasers, if you will, and the oscilloscope, which is attached to the photodetector, are both for reading the data that I will touch on in the next slide. And the total cost of all this will be $491.95, which is just under the requirement. So, what will we be testing for? Yay! The repetition rate and the pulse width are both things that can be read by the silicon photodetector and the oscilloscope. So those will be on the receiving end of the laser. And through our specific equation I will touch on, we will achieve finding the peak power and the average power. So measure the pulse width and repetition rate, like I said, and use this equation to solve it for the following two powers. As you can see with the equation, the average power over the peak power is equal to the pulse width times the pulse repetition, or divided by the pulse repetition rate, and that all equals the duty cycle. Now we are trying to solve for the greatest peak power, like I said earlier. So we would simply switch around this equation by cross multiplying and dividing by the pulse width. So the peak power would be equal to the average power times the pulse repetition rate divided by the pulse width. A little bit about the duty cycle. It's that small little bit of time in which our nitrogen laser is considered to be in an active state, so when it's firing. This is the fraction of the time that the nitrogen laser is operating, obviously. If the laser is shut off for 98 microseconds, for example, but fires for that 2 microseconds, then the laser has been running for 2 out of 100 microseconds, or 2% of the time. This cycle is used to find the average power and the peak power, more specifically the peak power for us, as I stated earlier. So, find the greatest peak power. We can do it. We got all semester, and yeah, it should be fun. A little bit about what the nitrogen laser is going to look like. Can't wait. Look at that. So I get to play around with that all semester. And that is it. Thank you for your time.